Um,
You can, if you want to call the meeting to order and we can do introductions and then
oh
we'll
yeah, I
go
never
from
get to do
there.
that. Yes, I just calling this month's meeting of the Salem Sustainability Committee together to order, and we have a very exciting meeting with a couple different presentations that I'm looking forward to, and hopefully we'll be joined by our chair, John Hayes, shortly. But since we have a quorum and guests whose time we want to be respectful of, I think we should just begin. We'll start with introductions, right, Stacy?
Yep.
And so, yeah, my name is William Nguyen. I'm the vice chair of the Sustainability Committee here in Salem. I work for Abode Energy Management, doing some quality assurance and tech review in the Mass Save program. Um, and I've been on, am currently the most senior member, other than John Hayes, of the committee. I've seen some real turnover, but really promising uh, new people that we're excited about. And to that end, I will pass it over to Bill Burnham.
Can everyone hear me okay? Hi, everyone. My name is Bill Burnham. I've been on the committee for about a year now, maybe a little bit longer, actually. No, maybe a couple years, actually. But I now work for Amfra. I recently switched careers. I work as a asset manager for an energy as a service company. So hopefully I'll get to, exercise some more sustainability and energy management measures here. And I'm reporting to you guys live from training in Arkansas right now. So actually an hour behind, but that shouldn't really affect anything. And who would like to go next? I'll pass it to, let's see, Kevin. Would you like to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Rice. I live in Salem, but I work for a environmental nonprofit out of Worcester called the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative, where I am their finance and program manager. I will pass it off to Zach.
Hey everyone, my name is Zach Calderon. Sorry I'm off camera today. I've been pretty under the weather for the last week or so. I think I've been a member of CIRC since 2024 now, but I am the advocacy program manager for the Ipswich River Watershed Association. And I'll pass on to Ella.
Hi everyone, I'm Ella Doherty, the energy manager for the city of Salem. And I'm just here representing the city and the sustainability office as well as Stacy, who I work with. Neil unfortunately can't make it tonight. He's our director. But I'll be sure to pass along everything we talk about. And after the presentation, I can kind of go over where we're going from here. So yeah, I'll pass it to Stacy.
Hey, Stacy Kilb. I'm the Sustainability Engagement Coordinator and Energy Coach in the Sustainability Department. So that's kind of what I do outside of running the CERC meetings. I think we got all the members except for John.
Hello, everybody. Do you see me?
You see you, John.
Yeah.
I sincerely apologize for being late. I'm at school still and I just got behind. So I was hoping to get home so I could Zoom from home. So grateful to have Lidos here tonight. Again, apologies for being late, but nice to see everybody. Oh, I'm a professor of geography and sustainability at Salem State. I'm a physical scientist. I teach global climate change, natural resource management, global environmental issues, and meteorology, upper division and lower division. So that's my intro. Hello, everybody.
And Stacy, I guess we're next, right?
Yeah, unless Kyle, is it okay if you go after the presentation or did you want to? You can, okay. Yep. So, yep, Lidos is up.
Thank you. I'm Kari Ellis, but I go by Kari Jarowski, and I'm one of the project managers for the Lidos team supporting this initiative. As you may know, we are also supporting other it's a total of 40 municipalities that are being supported through the program. And I'm the main project manager for the city of Salem for this initiative. And I'm joined by Susan, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sue Pace. I'm the lead engineer and EV designer at Leidos. I've been working in EV charging kind of from the outset here in Massachusetts in 2017 and 2018 when the utility programs first came out in phase one. And I'm really excited to present our feasibility study for on-street charging. Carrie, do you want to jump into this deck?
Okay.
Oh, is it a good time to share the screen now? Just checking.
Let's just introduce our city council liaison, Kyle Davis, who we're happy to have. Kyle?
He gave a thumbs up that that Leidos could go first, but then he went off camera.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's have Leidos continue.
Okay, very good. I am not good at sharing screens or anything with Zoom, so my hope is that I'm not going to mess it up. But if I do, forgive me. Okay. Let me see. I'm sharing the wrong one, as I expected. Let's see. Okay. Are you seeing the full deck, right? Like the one that says feasibility study, City of Salem? Is that what you see? And now program overview? Okay, we're good. So I can't see your faces. I'm going to minimize this, but please interrupt me if you need to ask any questions. First of all, thank you for your time here tonight to hear what we have for you. We're here to present the results of a feasibility study that was prepared for the city of Salem regarding potential locations for on-street EV charging. My name, as I said, Karielis Jarowski. I'm one of the project managers. Susan is joining me today. It's my hope that Ron can join us at some point. I know he has the invite. He's our program director. And before I go to the agenda, program overview, or any of that, I just want to send a big thank you to Neil, who's not here, Brennan, who's not here, Ella, and the other city representatives that have been supporting us throughout this effort. You have no idea how cooperative these people have been, how responsive, and they made all this possible in the timeline that we had to prepare the report. Today, we are going to walk you through the program background, what the goals of this program are, the sites that were selected for evaluation, the community engagement efforts that we did, and some key municipal and technical considerations. We are also going to talk a little bit about the site assessment results, the costs and the timelines, and some examples of EV charging models. You may be familiar with some of this information, but it's good. This is going to be a good time to explain how these may apply or benefit specifically your city. Same with the ownership structures. That's something that we're going to be showing you, some available incentives through the utility. And then we're going to close with a summary and open the floor to any questions. For those of you who were not part of our initial conversations, just know that this effort is part of the on-street charging solutions program funded by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, or MassEC. You may know they are a state economic development agency. They are dedicated to accelerating the growth of clean energy and climate technologies across Massachusetts. They awarded a 2-year contract to Commonwealth Electrical Technologies, CET. They are an electrical infrastructure contractor, and they specialize in EV charging installations. And we are their partner to implement this program. We are providing engineering, planning, and program management support. Some municipalities, as I mentioned when I introduced myself, some municipalities are receiving, there are 40 in total, and some of them are receiving installation of the EV charging stations, and others, like the city of Salem, are just receiving the feasibility study of selected locations. One thing that I want to point out, this is at no cost to the city, all paid by Mass EEC. And the primary objectives of the program have been to identify suitable and equitable locations for on-street charging, address technical and regulatory challenges, engage with the community, and provide recommendations for future implementation. At the beginning of the process, multiple locations were considered. You're only seeing the ones that made it to the list at the end. But we had plenty of conversations about numerous sites. We narrow it down to the 6 that you are seeing on the screen right now. It's important to note that these 6 locations are not intended to represent the only feasible sites in the city. And of course, they don't exclude other locations from being considered in the future. This is just, they were selected as a representative set to evaluate throughout the study, across the city. During our initial discussions, keep this in mind, our goal was to prioritize locations near residential areas, particularly where residents may not have the access to off-street parking or to a private garage. So the idea is to provide an option for those residents to park at an on-street charger, walk home, return once their vehicle is charged, and not have to, go to a parking lot that may not be near the residence or try to find one on the highway. That's the whole idea when you think about these locations, having something that is close to residential areas so that community can have a good use out of these potential locations. These locations that you're seeing on the screen are the ones that were carried forward for community input and for the technical assessment. When it comes to the community outreach and the engagement, I know that some people in the call have heard this before in previous meetings, but just to give you a general idea of how we did this, we implemented a 3-tier strategy. And the tiers were the following. The first one were the municipal officials. We first talked to them, and then they help us connect with community-based organizations, CBOs. Then the CBOs became our second tier. These CBOs then help us share information with the residents or the members of their organizations, and they help us increase awareness and participation through surveys. They are the tier 3, the residents and the members of those organizations. So that's how we got to talk to the municipal officials, community-based organizations, and then our last tier, the residents. With the help of everybody, we were able to coordinate our participation at different local events, including the Salem Kick Gas last year, the Living Green Expo, and Fiesta en la Calle. Those were the 3 events. And throughout the events and throughout the city website, social media, and the social media of the community-based organizations, we distributed flyers, an interactive map of the proposed locations, and the residents were invited to rate each of the sites from 1 through 5, 5 being the highest score that you can give to each of the locations. And based on the community feedback, the list of sites was slightly adjusted. The first 5 sites were always in the survey, always in the map. But through the feedback and the survey comments that people were providing, we noticed that site number 6 was mentioned quite often. So this one was added to the list later on. And that's why you may see the column that is called count of submissions. That's the number of surveys that were submitted for each site. The last one only has 18. The reason is because it came late in the game. But because it came late, we, with the help of the city, we sent mailers to 249 abutters just to let them know, hey, this site was added. Can you provide some feedback? Anybody who submitted a survey had an opportunity to say whether they wanted to see updates about the program or not. People who said yes were sent follow-up emails with frequently asked questions documentation, the interactive map again, and then information about the new site that had been added. In total, for the almost 3 months that the survey was open, we had 78 responses that were submitted by the residents. And I can tell you that the feedback was largely positive. Many of the residents were, let's say, in favor of expanding EV charging infrastructure, especially those who have an EV, because there was an option for them to specify whether they own an EV or not. So we got to see that. And then some of the residents were, instead of rating sites, they were suggesting alternative locations. We have listed those locations in the report, but we didn't do an on-site assessment to those, but they are listed for the knowledge of the city for the future when you guys plan to install new stations. And a handful of residents raised concerns about parking availability, as you can expect, congestion around some of the sites, and project funding. This was a very common one across all municipalities, not only Salem. We tend to hear a lot the comments related to, is this being done with the taxpayers' dollars? Are we paying for these report? The answer is no. This is fully funded by Mass EC, but the residents need to be educated in the future if you decide to install it regarding where the money is coming from. This is a big deal. Everybody wants to know who is funding what. And we have a slide where we are going to show you what is available for you guys. I'm sure you know some of this information, but it's going to be either a good refresher or new information for others about where to find incentives or rebates to, in the case you decide to install stations in the future. The last thing to close out this community engagement slide that I have is, although we consider that the response was positive and we got a good number of surveys when we compare with the rest of the municipalities that participated, based on your population, a higher, a bigger sample, a larger sample size will provide you, of course, with a more comprehensive representation of the community sentiment. We recommend at least 300 responses from the community to get a proper representation. And this is just a recommendation if in the future you decide to implement surveys again about either these sites or others, at least between 300, 380 responses would give you a good representation of the community sentiment. Regarding municipal specific considerations, we included a review of the historic districts in the report, environmental constraints, and regulatory considerations. I can tell you that for historic districts, only one of the sites, the site number 1, central downtown location, is the one that falls within the McIntyre Historic District, is the only one. And some of you may know that in scenarios like this, you are going to need a certificate of appropriateness. And we have outlined the steps for applications of this type in the report, but it's the only consideration that we want to point out over here, as there are not any environmental concerns. None of the proposed sites are located within flood zones or sensitive environmental areas. And Sue, correct me if I'm missing anything here, but I think that's the main thing I wanted to point out, the one about the historic district, and then I'm ready for the next slide if you think so.
Yeah, that's great. Yep, perfect.
Okay. And I'm actually going to pass it over to you, Sue, for the neighborhood score.
Okay, so in addition to reviewing historic districts and environmental concerns, one of the main goals of the program was to look at densely populated residential areas. And we typically used the zoning districts within the city of Salem in order to determine what districts allowed multifamily by right and how many units were allowed by right or by special permit. And so we went through the districts and rated and ranked those where the more residential density got a higher score. And we also looked at environmental justice communities and environmental justice populations because there would be a need for on-street charging and publicly accessible charging in those areas with densely populated residents as well. And so we added the zoning score and the environmental justice population score to reach a neighborhood score. And then we kind of had a range to show, the highest impact. So the neighborhood score is high, means there's a lot of people living nearby. And so we were able to rate and rank the scores according to residential density. The next slide is the site selection summary. And this shows the community feedback. It also indicates the Site 1 is an historic district. There were no scenic roads or, MassDOT roads that we looked at. So there was nothing under roadway. There were no environmental concerns. And it shows the neighborhood score range as well as the ease of electrical installation. The ease of electrical installation is the easier the install, the lower the cost. So when we were scoping out sites and locations, we were, pretty particular about, where we were going to place these and how best to get a new electric service in order to power the EV chargers close by in order to keep costs low. So that was really important to us as we, were looking for locations and the site selections. So the next slide is.
May I just jump in with the question real quick?
Sure.
The neighborhood score that you folks had, I use the Mass GIS all the time and the EJ maps, and I know it's just based off of numbers. Are there any nuance considerations to them? Because I'm thinking, especially at Salem Public Library and the Common, definitely not neighborhoods that score high with EJ populations. However, is also space that, especially like the library, with it being free and equitable, and the Common being one of the largest green spaces that Salem has, that is also near the point and is a place of free, equitable use. Are there any like nuances that can go behind those scores of helping that score out a little bit? Because I could see those spaces being used by populations that would fit the EJ criteria.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did an overview of the city, and also we're not residents. So we looked at the maps and the data that was available to us via your zoning map and EJP areas that are mapped. But there's a lot of nuance in every community. And so as the city goes forward and looks at these locations, it's definitely a conversation to have and to be a proponent for certain sites based on who lives nearby and the communities that'll be utilizing these. Unfortunately, we're not residents, so we didn't have a lot of insight into that kind of information. So it's not incorporated directly into our feasibility study, but we hope that you'll be able to continue that conversation with the city should you move forward with these locations.
Yeah, thank you, Sue, and thank you, Kevin. As I hear your question and Sue's answer, I just want to point out that when you take a look at the sites, don't think about them as, okay, we have to identify a single winner from the list, but instead is more of like having a well-informed set of options. If I install here, what are the costs? What type of station I can use? Those type of things. And then once if the city decides to install, then that's when those nuances can be solved, Kevin. Like, let's account for any other factors that have not been included here. But hopefully this is going to be a roadmap, a guide for the very first steps to accomplish that installation in the future.
I have a question too.
Go ahead, John.
Hi, so I'm really regarding the table there, if there's nothing filled in for like the whole roadway column and the environmental column, to me that would imply that there were no negative constraints to it. Does that make so? I'm curious, what's with the empty boxes?
Yes, we that's an excellent question, and you're right. There were no constraints. We wanted to leave those in just to reiterate the fact that, if there was an environmental concern like a flood zone or like a wetland area close by, we would have noted that in that column. So these locations are clear of any like environmental in the reported outlines. Like we looked at contaminated sites near the locations. We looked at wetland buffers, flood zones, your coastal flood areas. So that was just to highlight that, there was no constraints.
Right.
So that's good.
No constraints, right? So I guess I see then, because if you had the heading of the table be any, environmental constraints, then all those blanks would have been no. So you would have had a table with a bunch of no's, I guess, right? So
right. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So the next slide, we're gonna dive right into the site locations. The Salem Public Library location is actually across the street from the library, just because that's the side of the street that has the utility poles. So getting the electric service would be easier in that location. And so it's right across the street at the, right on the other side of the intersection. And that location does have a historic district. The second site is in North Salem at Mason Street and Buffum Street. There is on-street parking on Mason Street, but we selected a location on Buffum Street just due to the fact that the existing utility poles were really full of equipment and transformers, and you would likely have to put in a new utility pole on Mason Street if you wanted to install there. So we wanted to use as much existing infrastructure as we could, and so that location was moved slightly to Buffum Street. The next slide shows Bridge Street Neck, Cross Street at Cross Court. This location was picked, and an existing pole is used to bring the charging station on the west side of the street. The Salem Common, Washington Square East location is right across from the Salem Common on Washington Square East. And this location is kind of near the breakaway condos and 89 Washington Square East, which is another condo building.
Where's the Hawthorne Hotel? Is it on that image? The Hawthorne Hotel?
No, John, that big parking lot there is the funeral home on the backside of Salem
right.
Common. You can see the playground as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So the next site is the Point, Harbor Street at Salem Street. And we originally were looking for a location with existing on-street parking on Harbor Street. But again, there's a lot of services. There are a lot of multifamily apartments and a lot of like meters and houses and transformers. So the utility poles along Harbor Street were like full of equipment. So again, you would probably have needed a new utility pole on Harbor Street to get the charging station on Harbor Street. So in lieu of doing that, we looked a little bit further down Salem Street, and it's close to the 135 Lafayette and the new apartments and mixed use on Harbor Street as well. and the South Salem site. This was the location that was added kind of after the survey went out as a late add to the community outreach survey. There's a school further south of here that has charging stations at it. So the idea was to bring a charging station further north into the neighborhoods, so it would be more accessible to the multifamily apartments in the area.
Can you go back, please? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So no, site 6.
Mm-hmm.
So that home there with the solar panels,
Mm-hmm.
that's me.
Oh.
So that telephone pole, my wife and I have been worried for more than 10 years because it's inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had National Grid come out. They kind of look at it and they just don't do anything. And so I don't know if you know, but it's very tilted. And my wife and I have been worried about it for 15 years.
Yeah, I mean the good part about, because I was out in the field, I did the on-site in sweaty July. We were out there on site, and yeah, the pole definitely leans, but if you propose a new service from it, they'll also be likely to replace it. So
Okay.
you'd get a new pole
Okay. Okay.
from your house. But yeah, they do tend to lean, and sometimes the utility will come out and put these, they're like brown metal plates with these rings that go around the utility pole, and it's like a support on one side of the pole to like hold it up. And you'll see that a lot if you walk around sidewalks. You'll be like, oh, there's this weird metal thing on the side of the utility pole, and those are like supports to stabilize them. So
Yeah, I haven't really seen that, Sue, but what residents of City of Salem often complain about is when National Grid just adds a pole. So we have that eyesore of 2 poles, and it can go on for years. An eyesore of like, instead of replacing the old pole, they put a new pole and kind of attach them. So yeah, it's really quite ugly to have a 2 pole. So that won't happen there, will it?
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that. Only National
Okay.
Grid can. But I can tell you that the 2-pole configuration is just about moving the wires, and sometimes it's not the electric company, but the cable company that holds things up because they haven't transferred their wires to the new pole yet. So it's both, it's the electric and the cable
Right.
working together. They don't, it's hard for them to work together.
Right,
So,
right. Okay. Well, thank you.
yep, absolutely. So we reviewed the City of Salem ordinances and looked for any kind of construction permits that would be required for on-street charging. And so there's a list of, the contractor will have to pull a bunch of permits and get permission from the city for the installations. The next slide talks about traffic ordinances and tourism. Y'all are well aware of the October parking enforcement and the downtown adjacent streets and resident only parking and the very high enforcement and towing associated with some of these locations close to downtown, especially near the library, as well as the common. We just pointed out and recommended that maybe the city consider resident charging only at those charging stations if they get installed, or to survey the community and see what access is like, during October, and if in the future they might want to consider incorporation of signage, just to make sure that residents are allowed access to on-street charging and it's available for inhabitants. The next slide is the estimated project costs and timeline. Now, these numbers look really big, and I'm gonna get to that. So this shows the infrastructure costs, but it also includes the construction costs for the new electric service. And when you go through the National Grid EV charging program and apply for incentives, those costs will come way, way down. National Grid typically pays for 100% of the electric service cost up to the meter. But I wanted to provide the full number, including the electric service with all the wiring underground, up the pole, all the way to the top of the pole to the transformer, just to show you, like, this is a big budgeting number, but the incentives will bring these costs way, way down. The next slide is the most important slide, and this is about the incentive programs. There are two main programs that Salem can apply for. One is the Mass EVIP public charging program. The program awards the grants based on address. So every single one of these locations could apply for the EVIP grant and the EVIP funding. And they can cover up to 100% of the cost of the infrastructure, up to $50,000 for municipalities. And that EVIP program, right now, it works in conjunction with the National Grid public charging program. So you can apply for the same address for both incentive programs. And National Grid typically covers 100% of the electric service cost up to the meter, and then a percentage based on a cap of the remaining infrastructure. So, the cabinet, the conduit, the wiring, the concrete base. So they, between National Grid and EVIP funding, you can cover most of the cost of these installations. The next slide talks about EVSE models, and this is just for future information. The city of Salem, has 11 different locations, and most of its charge point currently, but in the future, depending on the needs of the city, they may or may not change technology or, increase port amperage. So this is just, some options to keep in mind that are typically used in Eastern Mass and are seen a lot in the area. The next slide talks about third-party ownership. There was an interest early on in the program with its electric due to its lower profile and potential, kind of optics in a historic district, and that it may or may not be, an option there. And so third-party ownership is when, the city says, okay, it's electric, you own the charging station, you operate the charging station, you maintain the charging station, and the city writes a check for that. There are pros because the municipality doesn't need to keep track of it or operate it or set costs. And its electric or the third-party owner would install the stations and do all the permitting and construction. The cons are the company that owns it does the installation, manages it, and the city is has less of a say. And sometimes they have a subscription or usage-based payment model. So that can add up over time. I'm sure, everybody with their subscriptions on their phones and apps and such understand how that can add up. So the next slide is about energy-based fees. The city of Salem has a citywide rate for EVSE charging, and that's currently set at 35 cents a kilowatt hour. EVIC is a EV coordinating council in Mass, and they have a methodology that includes the annual costs. So that's the maintenance, that's the software costs, as well as the cost from National Grid for the energy. And they have a whole calculation that we laid out in the report. And so this is, something to keep in mind as the city moves forward and as electric rates go up. Winter rates sometimes go up, depending on, the rates you can, and the usage of the charging station, you can calculate a rate that you charge EV owners to cover costs. There's also, you can set an idle fee. So if someone is plugged in and charged and then they don't move, the charging station app sends the EV driver a text being like, okay, your car is charged. So the city can say, okay, you knew your car was charged, but you're still holding up the port and nobody else can charge. So after a grace period of 30 minutes or a half or an hour, the city could start to charge an idle fee, like, oh, you're taking up the spot, so we're going to charge you using the software, an idle fee. You can also assess parking fees. Some of these are installed in garages in Salem already with a parking fee as well as energy-based cost. So depending on where these are located, that could be an option as well. So the next slide, again, just highlighted the October weekend and Indigenous peoples rates. So I just went online and pulled some examples of what the garages and lots do in the area, just because I wanted to point out that the ChargePoint software and a lot of the different softwares for other charging stations as well, you can set up pricing groups. So if the city wanted to do a resident pricing group for October, they could do that versus a visitor rate for charging. So it's just something to consider in the same way, in the same vein as the garage parking fees. So I guess this leads us to our summary and conclusion. And I know we're way kind of over time, but this just shows, the locations, the costs, estimated timelines. And I know we went through a lot really quick, but I guess this leads us to our questions and answers.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much.
I was going to ask, how many ports do you get at each location? Is it just one port, or like for this estimated cost?
Yeah, so for our study purposes only, we did 2 ports and 1 charging station at each location. That way you're looking at like an apples to apples comparison of the locations. The difference in cost comes from trenching and excavation, and if the trench is long, you're going to need more time to dig that, as well as more pavement to repave it after. If there is a concrete sidewalk or even a brick sidewalk that you have to reconstruct after construction, that could take a lot of time. So that's the difference in cost. For a lot of these locations is the site work and the construction and the excavation.
I have a question, but I was just wondering if Ella had a question, since she's involved with the city S&R department. And
I don't have a question. I think that this was a beautiful presentation. Obviously, I've been kind of in with the process, so I've asked my questions earlier. But I did just want to thank you guys for taking the time and sharing this information with us. I also, if people wanted to know like what we're going to do with this information as a city, I would be happy to answer that if anyone's curious.
Yeah, could we do that after we're done with the Q&A with Leidos?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So I just had a real quick question, and I also want to echo the thank you to both Sue and is it Carryless? Is that how you say it?
That's good enough, John.
Sorry if I butchered it. The criteria that helped you to narrow it down from down to 5 sites, and then you added the Hancock site. What was the criterion related to walking distance? Was there a criterion related to walking distance between stations?
We wanted to place these in densely populated residential areas within, a quarter to a half-mile walk, so that
Okay.
folks could, park their vehicle, walk home, kind of make dinner, and then after dinner, walk back and get their vehicle was kind of our goal.
Very
So
good.
as we scope locations, from the beginning, we looked at, I think the city started out with around 20 different
20. Okay.
locations. And then we're like, well, this one's close to this one. Why don't we triangulate and look here? And so it really got narrowed down in that way, being like, oh, well, you wanted 2 of these locations, but they're within a couple blocks. Let's pick something kind of in the middle. And so that's how a lot of these locations came to be.
So I don't actually see that in that slide. Is that, the actual quarter to half-mile walk? Is that in there?
In the report, we don't have those figures in our presentation, but in our report, there's a number of figures that show the half-mile buffer.
Cool. I would like to see that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
John, I have that report. I think Stacy does too, so we can get that to you.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Anybody else? Questions?
I was gonna say, like, so you had a lot, you narrowed it down to 6. So it seems like Salem is a pretty good candidate, like whether it's exactly at these polls or nearby, like generally Salem seems to be a pretty good candidate for on-street charging.
Yes,
Would you say that's
absolutely.
generally true? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great option. Sometimes parking lots aren't close to where the people live, and so it gets hard when the city's looking at the properties that they own, and where they can install these. And so the right of way with public ownership and city ownership is really something to look at, because it'll provide, extra charging where you wouldn't think you could get it, just because the city doesn't have a building nearby or a facility nearby where they own property.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how if you did how much you looked into the demographics of Salem, but it's like 60% renting. And so
Yes.
I myself am a renter, so me asking my landlord to install a electric charger is like it's going to be an uphill battle. But if I had one of these nearby, it would, tip the scale for me. Like, oh yeah, definitely buy an electric car. Which was that we just bought a new or a used hybrid because of that very thing. But yeah, that's been. I mean, I find this really encouraging. I think this is one of the big things for um our our program to, reduce gas cars and get to net zero. Like the on-street
Right.
parking is going to have to be part of the equation. It actually, can I follow that up with, is it easy to add more on-street parking or chargers once you have one on the street? Or is that like a whole new project that you have to do? Like,
That
is it?
that's an excellent question. So when we design these locations, we, for the purposes of pricing and just a general idea, we put in 2 ports. But all of these locations could support up to 5 ports.
Okay.
So there's room for expansion built into our feasibility study for future build out. Or you could say, the Salem Common location is really popular. We want to put in 4 ports right away here. But maybe, Essex Street is going to take longer because of the historical district. So we'll wait on that one. So you can expand these to 5 ports total and install them all at once if that's what the city is interested in doing. But the feasibility study just did 2 ports as kind of like a sample.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it'll scale up to 5 ports pretty, affordably.
Yes. Yep.
Before you have to tap into another pole and then you're back up to whatever that location. There are a lot of electric cars around, I think. Um, but excellent. I'm so encouraged by this.
That's
Can I just
really
ask a question?
no, thank you,
So,
John. I was just gonna say real quick to William that that's really encouraging for us as well, because one of the program goals is not only to provide this infrastructure for people who already have an EV, but also to encourage the EV adoption. So it's great to hear this. Thank you.
yeah, that is cool. I don't know if when I'm thinking about that there could be expanded from more than two ports, I'm just thinking as the owner of a possible EV, possible owner of a vehicle. Would that mean that the owner of the vehicle would have to have longer cords? They would just carry longer cords because that means they're parking in a spot that's not the official spot, and they have to have their cord be long enough to go. Am I wrong with that? Is that what would be happening if you added a third or a fourth or a fifth port? Don't they have to have a long cord to connect?
That's a great question. So the way that the ports and the configuration of the charging station is, we showed one dual port charging station at each one of these locations from a central kind of distribution cabinet. And so that distribution cabinet could have another conduit with another concrete pad and a whole nother charging station. So there would be two charging stations with 4 ports. So your car, it would take up 4 EV charging spots on the street, but you would see 2 complete charging stations. So the cords would reach the cars they're like designated for. Now, do people kind of drag into the next one or go around the, they do, absolutely. But you could expand, if you decided to install 2 ports at the beginning, you would just need to add conduit and wiring in the concrete base to install another charging station to get 4 ports.
That's encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah, that just sounds like a street parking like toll with like 2 spots, right? Like just the normal what you would think, but except it's for charging an electric car.
Right. Yep. Yep. So like the study said, okay, we're going to take 2 parking spots from, example, Washington Square East. But if there was a large demand in that area, and the city put in a second charging station, it would be 4 spaces along that street. That would be for EV charging.
I have a question for Ella. So Ella, as this possibly rolls out, so I'm now thinking of myself as a homeowner that happens to have one of these near my house. What if someone has work to do on their phone, so they sit in their car while it's charging and they're like blasting their radio? I just want you as the city to think about that. We wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want someone sitting in their car charging it, doing stuff on their cell phone, and having the windows open on a warm summer day and they're blasting music in a residential neighborhood. So if you could just think about language, or I don't know if Sue and Carolise, if if there's like any kind of added language that you can't be creating a noise disturbance while you're sitting in your car charging in a residential neighborhood. Because you all know, everybody on this Zoom, you have heard cars with really loud speakers.
Are you talking about Diego Papa?
I'm just talking about loud music. I love music, everybody, but I like it when I'm in my living room or whatever, listening to it. I don't want to be in my house listening to someone charging and having to listen to their music.
Oh, personally, I think it wouldn't matter if people are going to do it if they're going to do it, whether it's an internal combustion engine vehicle or.
Well, they don't do it really, Stacy. This is different. They're charging.
I would say, John, that this is probably covered by normal sound ordinances and disturbance that's already on the books. I think Kyle Davis could probably correct me on that one, but I think that we already have sound ordinances that are existing And if someone's stuck at a charging station, it's probably easier to enforce
Great.
that.
You are, that's that great. It would be in, right, it could be, if it's violated, then it could be enforced. So very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's
Sorry that
nearly
I was
impossible
thinking.
for us to. We get a lot of complaints about like motorcycles going by are incredibly loud, and then sometimes they're playing music, and that's even louder. So it's like almost impossible to enforce. But someone sitting, idly, that sounds relatively easy to enforce.
Thanks a lot.
You
Sorry that
could
I
find them.
was thinking of this worry out loud, everybody. It just, thank you, everybody.
John, I
Calvin,
totally see where you're, oh, sorry. I totally see where you're coming from. And I think that that's also something in which we definitely would want to implement that idle fee to kind of dissuade people from just sitting there and taking up the spot, making sure that everyone has a chance to use it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
great. Does the city council have any questions, or members of the city council?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, does anyone else have any other questions for
No.
Leidos?
Just one last question. I know that we're running over time on this one, but I think all of the discussion on it's been super helpful as well of understanding the feasibility study. The timeline of 3 months and the responses of 70 some or 80. Are there any barriers or anything like that you found during this feasibility study and the outreach period that would be helpful for us to know in the future? The hardest part, and I think it's actually Zach's coworker, his name's Neil with Ipswich River, is you got the sandwich of people where the top bun is people that really, really love it. Bottom bun is people that hate it, but getting that inside chunk is so hard to capture of the people that don't really care about it right now, but might care about it in the future when it's actually implemented. So are there any barriers or opportunities that it was like, hey, if we had another 3 months, this would have been a great opportunity to do something different?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Kevin. And I think we found more than one barrier. And again, for us, this was an experience, a positive experience if we compared against the other 39 municipalities that we worked with in this project. Having more time is something that would have helped. Having the two extremes, people who either love it or hate it, that's another. I'll be very blunt with you. I'm part of the Latino community. I'm a Latino person. And there was a huge hesitance from a lot of people to even scan a QR code to take a survey. So a lot of people did provide me with their input at the in-person events, but they would just tell me, oh, for these, I would do a 4. For these, I don't even know where it is. So I'm neutral. I'll give it a 3. The scores were for 1 through 5. So they would give me their score verbally, but I cannot record it that way because of the transparency issue that would cause,
Right.
So that was another barrier, and it wasn't only in Salem, across other municipalities, Revere, Chelsea, that we worked with, same situation. I feel like we had a lot of support from the city to spread the word. Social media was used, mailers to abutters, which that didn't happen with other municipalities. So having that continuous support from the city is going to be key if in the future you're going to survey people again. Having their support is key. Having more CBOs involved and maybe more educated about what the purpose of the program is will be key. That was not a barrier, but it could be improved. So people like the library were more willing to participate and put the flyers at the library or distribute it to residents than local businesses. It's not to say they wouldn't do it, they just need to be more educated. And then, as I mentioned, this all came at no cost to the community. So, but internally, and again, just being blunt and honest, we also had our kind of like our budgeting. This is how much we can spend in terms of hours with each municipality. So if I had had more time to go business to business, hey, can you give this to your employees? Can you some more time, more budget for that type of outreach effort, I know it could lead to even more positive results. So a few barriers and other things that were not barriers but could be definitely improved, and having more time will be a plus.
And I just wanted to quickly add onto that too, that we were giving a survey for a study, and people are a lot more apt to give you your opinion if there's going to be a shovel in the ground, especially near their house. So when people are like, oh, take a survey about a study, it's harder than like, hey, we're going to be building this near your house. Like, tell us what you think. I think that's, you'll get more responsive effort from people that are close by, knowing that construction is being planned. So that's also part of it as well.
Very true.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, I think thank you so much, Lidos,
Yeah, thank you,
for your
Lidos.
presentation. It's very, very good.
Thorough and detailed. Appreciate that.
Anytime. If you have any follow-up questions, please let Ella know. And we're going to be working in this program until the end of 2026, maybe a little bit into 2027. So questions are welcome. I will send to Ella a QR code that is for a survey that is meant to be for municipal officials and people like you, committees, just to hear feedback. It's not about whether you hate or love EV. It's about what this initiative was. If you think it's going to be helpful for the city at all, I think yes. But any feedback, anything we can improve, either in the report for presentations, that's helpful for us. So, Ella, I'll send it to you, and then whenever you can show it to the committee.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll send that out. Thank you so much, Carrie.
No problem. Guys, if you don't mind, I have a toddler that I have to put to bed. So
No problem.
leave you.
Thank you so much.
But it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Carrie. Great to see you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. It was great working with the city of Salem, and appreciate you. And we wish you the best as you move forward on your EV expansion initiatives.
Thanks for the good wishes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for all your hard work.
Bye.
Councilor Davis, I don't know if you have anything to report at all, or if not, that's okay. But you would be next if you have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Two quick things. We had our gas leaf blower ordinance committee meeting last week. I think it went really well. There was a lot of consensus around passing some version of it. We definitely got stuck in the weeds a little bit when it came to enforcement and felt like we needed some more information from police around questions around that. And then also curious about, some of the kind of technology and battery storage stuff. So yeah, more research needed, and then we'll be coming back to it for a future committee meeting, and there'll be lots of edits, and hopefully we can get something passed.
So what you're referring to, that was the subcommittee?
Yeah, so that was the Committee on Public Health, Safety, and the Environment.
Great.
And it was co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. I think every counselor was actually there. Yeah.
Who chairs that committee, Kyle?
So Counselor Hapworth does right now.
Oh, Ty. Okay, Ty. Very good. Thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah, of course.
And was there? Did you say there was two things?
There were two things too, but I was pausing if people had questions or anything.
I'm just gonna get the lights on here.
Yeah, the second thing is I've been talking to some residents that would like to see some type of ordinance around native planting. There's a really interesting ordinance in Somerville that mandates that both the city and private developers when they're doing plantings need to have, kind of a bare minimum standard percentage of how many of those need to be native, trying to get more native plantings around, and kind of opening up discussion with some counselors about that, as well as some organizations like Salem's Native Nursery and SAFE, and just wanted to bring it up in case Cirque had some interest in that conversation. I think Counselor Halapa's suggestion was that we kind of make it a little bit larger of discussion than just native plantings, maybe other kinds of ecological sustainability, items could kind of be added to the discussion. But yeah, just kind of throwing it out there if people had interest in that and maybe wanted to um, meet in Circuit a future meeting, or if there's individual members that have some interest, feel free to reach out to me. Whatever comes to mind for folks there.
Kyle, are you aware of the, so last fall, I'm a faculty advisor to a sustainability council internship at Salem State in geography, and it's for students. And we have some projects that we're working on, but we gave a little bit of input to Stacy's. She created a borrowed from others, but she kind of got it tailored for Salem, a sustainable landscaping handbook. And Stacy, I can't remember, I think it made it showed some of the benefits of planting native species versus invasives, or the worries about invasives, didn't it? I'm pretty sure there was a section in there on that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, that's basically the focus of it, because most native things are going to be sustainable because they've been here, they're adapted to this environment and this climate. They don't outcompete anything. So yeah, it was yeah, it's done, it's online, and yeah, we appreciated everybody's input.
Okay,
Thanks,
awesome. I was not aware of that. That's fantastic. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. I'll try to.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll write myself a note to send you the link.
okay, excellent.
So, Stacy, while we're talking about this, on the Cirque website, I would love if that handbook was on the left margin of our homepage as something that could be looked at, because I think the homepage of Cirque now is kind of sparse compared to the way it used to be, and so maybe Will and I can talk to you later about that, because I noticed some changes with removal of things from the homepage of Cirque.
Yeah,
And I'd
I'm
like
not
to
sure that with the way that website is now that we have that option. I think
Yeah.
it's just minutes and videos, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we can figure it out. If you want to sit down with Leslie and I or whatever, we can.
I would like to do that. I could maybe come in person and do that.
If you want, yeah. I think what we did was we just like the links on the left, we're trying to keep it so like there could be a link on the left that says presentations, and then that takes you to the page where they list the presentations. Like it's not going to list every single presentation
Right.
on the
My
main
memory
page.
was
Yeah.
that there wasn't even the presentations link anymore.
Yeah, I honestly haven't looked in a little bit, so I'll have to
Okay.
check
All right.
that
So,
out.
well, maybe you and I and Stacy can Zoom, and after we've looked at the website again.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle, for your report. Really appreciate it. Um, and it's a good handbook. Kudos to Stacy and for coordinating it, spearheading it, and I think it's a pretty impressive handbook. So I think the goal now is, I think maybe on the next meeting, since it's actually April, and Stacy, why don't we put it on the agenda so we can help publicize the Sustainability Landscaping Handbook of the city?
Okay.
Great.
All right. Kyle, any other projects you have coming up that or like interests in that would concern our committee?
I think that's all I've got in terms of environmental stuff.
Hmm.
Racking my brain.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
Kyle. So
good.
So what is the subcommittee trying to do? Are you trying to do an ordinance related to native plantings?
Yeah, so it's a little less formal than that for now. I think, yeah, not a subcommittee, but more so just I think Counselor Halapa and I want to talk to community partners that I think have, as clearly you have as well, kind of dived into this, further than we have. And, in an effort to be responsive to some residents that have reached out about wanting to see a native planting ordinance. I
Mm,
think before even kind of getting to the point of like working on language and bringing someone to the council, we really wanted to kind of talk to everyone and see if there's a, yeah, I think Councilor Jalapa had a a hunch that there could be more to it than that. Maybe there could be an ordinance that encapsulates more than just native plantings. Like I think like pollinators came to mind, and I know that like from time to time, someone in the council mentioned like permeable streets. Um,
mm,
and I think also trying to get a sense of like is native plantings the most yeah, the top priority for folks in these different organizations when it comes to like the larger discussion of like ecological sustainability. So yeah, we're hoping to spend some time. I think, maybe like the idea of like a community meeting was kind of tossed around, or the idea of just kind of like meeting her and I with CERC, with SAFE, with, some other groups and kind of taking lots of notes and seeing what people have to say on the discussion and then going from there.
That's very cool. So I have two suggestions. And Stacy, so can you make sure Kyle has a copy of the handbook?
Yep.
And Kyle, your concern about this and this fact that this is an interest area, you could help Stacy and us publicize that handbook.
Yeah,
Because
I'd love to.
it's a
Yeah,
good starting point. But
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
but I like your idea of broadening it, permeable pavers, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, if you were looking for just more input and people to bounce things off of it, I'd be more than happy, especially if you're looking for someone from Cirque to chat with. We've chatted with in my professional capacity. We've talked with Worcester a lot about this, and there's a few downfalls, mostly just like nursery availability of native species. Usually they're full of really pretty flowers, and the pretty flowers are the ones that don't always fit. But I think that the biggest thing, especially when it comes to ordinances, is just when you have these larger buildings that are being built and being able to have some type of control to ensure that the native wildlife and bugs and all that stuff are being taken care of, and it can be done on their dime. They're making profit off of it anyway, so it's just more realistic about timeline, because sometimes you have to search a little bit harder to be able to find native species that can fit the bill for what they're looking for. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to step up and chat more with you about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Kevin. That's exactly the kind of feedback I think Counselor Halapin are looking for, like people that have clearly put some thought into this and have some experience with it. So, yeah, that would be super helpful. Let's definitely connect, and we have a little bit of a email thread going with some people that have expressed interest. So, would love to get you on there.
Thanks, Kevin. Really like that collaboration.
I think good. I think Ella is next. Is that right, Stacy?
Um, yeah, Ella, did you have anything to add from above or in general?
I can just add a little bit about what we're going to do with the feasibility study. And I can send you guys the actual like full study if I know John expressed some interest in seeing that. So
Thank you.
I can
Yeah.
definitely, when I send out the QR code, I can send that along as well. And you
Okay.
can see because there is a lot of really interesting information in there. But as far as next steps, we're going to be coordinating with the transportation office hopefully soon. Potentially just throwing around the idea of exploring a pilot. At this point, nothing is like in motion, but because of this study, it's definitely gotten us thinking about adding more EV charging options for residents. And then kind of off of, I know Kevin asked the question about like how to look at the nuances of EJ communities, and that's something that we wanted to explore a little bit more just before we start implementing anything. Just really looking at parking restrictions and a little bit more demographic, not issues per se, but maybe challenges that specifically in the point the EV chargers could face, and just implementing those, who would be using them realistically. And then we also recently, as a city, joined the City Climate Innovation Challenge, which is a cohort with LACI, which is a West Coast-based climate nonprofit. And so they host these like national cohorts to kind of discuss different environmental issues. And so the cohort that we're in is discussing curbside charging specifically and kind of the barriers that we as municipalities face. So in that, we're kind of trying to learn a little bit more about level two curbside charging and implementing that as a whole. And kind of using this feasibility study as a baseline and going off of that. And then also, I know it was mentioned in the presentation, but third-party financing, obviously, we all saw the big price tag that comes with implementing that kind of charging station. So definitely looking into how to finance those at little to no expenses to the taxpayers and the residents that this will benefit.
Thanks, Ella. Thank you.
Ella, in your capacity, do you guys look at, or do you look at like the change in the light duty vehicles within the city from year to year? And not
Yeah, I
like
mean,
city owned, but like residential
yeah,
ones?
like residential, like how many people are actually utilizing the chargers?
Or not like how is the demographic change of residential vehicles changing in Salem? Like, are more people spending more time taking the tr like registering less cars, for instance, or like are we seeing like a change to more hybrid and electric vehicles? Um,
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting to look at. I don't have that information off the top of our head because that's just
okay.
not something that we kind of keep track of. I can tell you that our charging stations definitely like from when the first one was implemented, probably 2022, I would say, to now, it's just increasingly been more used, especially during the months of this, like the summer months in October is when we can definitely see a massive uptick in use. So definitely there is a lot more usage than there has been in the past, which could be partially from tourists and could be from residents. I think obviously during like the winter months, we can kind of assume that most of those are residential. Um, a lot of times the garages are what get the most use, I would say. Especially like Museum Place, they have some. There's one in like the South Harbor parking area, and that gets a lot of use as well. Yeah, as far as like the demographic of residential cars, I definitely would be interested to look at that. Like, definitely look at the registrations or see if, I don't know, anyone's keeping track of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, we we just gotta well, there's like we got a new hybrid, but it is of course an SUV because you can't buy station wagons anymore.
Hmm.
So the gas mileage is it's like what my Camry used to be. It's like 30 miles to the gallon. But
Yeah.
um anyway. So
Yeah, I think
uh
personally, if I was to guess, I would say that I would hope that we're on a like positive projection of more people having EVs, and especially like putting these chargers in could potentially like move the needle slightly to encourage
Absolutely.
people. I
sure.
think obviously legislation wise, that's all kind of changing. There's a lot less support of it, and there's a lot less like tax breaks,
Federally. Yeah.
um, which I think could, yeah, which I think could impact it, but hopefully, fingers
Yeah.
crossed, not that much.
Yeah. I mean, there's also I don't know if the city would consider or like if there was some kind of like if you wanted to push this even further, like a incentive for homeowners and or landlords um to add, charging ports and stuff for their residents. Like I'm sure landlords don't really want to do it when well, I still work for Mass Save, but we kind of with like multifamily houses, Mass Safe program gives out just like it's 100% free if you do a multifamily for all of you, but you have to do the whole thing. And it's just to get out of the way of like landlords saying like I'm not going to pay for that, I don't care, etc. So like reducing barriers is huge for that. But anyway, well, great. I'm excited. The feasibility study was very thorough and promising.
It is late, everybody. It's been a wonderful
Yep.
meeting. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Did we cover all the things?
Before that, I would just like to enter a plea for volunteers at Salem Kicks Gas, which is on April 12th. It's a Sunday. It's from 1 to 4 at the high school. Yeah,
I'm there.
I will send out the link to register for a shift just so I kind of know
Great.
who's coming when. There's like a setup shift, a during the event shift, an after shift. If somebody can please, if you're coming, take photos. I always forget
Sure.
to do that.
Do you,
So
Stacy, do you have a flyer for this event?
I do have a flyer. I will send you
That
guys the
would be
flyer.
great.
Yep, it's got the QR code to both register to attend the event and a separate QR code to do the sign up genius. If you do the I want to volunteer thing the on the Drive Electric Earth Month thing itself, it doesn't get me the information that I need. So just do like the separate links. But if you
Okay.
know anybody that has an electric vehicle or an e-bike or whatever, I do have plenty of EVs coming already. So if somebody has something like unique, that's not like a 2022 Chevy Bolt or whatever, but
So,
I don't know.
Stacy, I had made a recommendation to you before about Subaru. They're a
Yeah,
new, they're a new manufacturer with with
yeah,
EV now. It'd be
yeah.
great to have a Subaru dealer there.
It would. I tried calling them. They haven't gotten back to me, but I'm gonna kind of do another push
Okay.
tomorrow next week. So I'll call them again and
Okay.
remind them. But yeah,
Great.
so if I email you guys the links, please don't blow it off. Don't ignore it. Please, if you can help, do it. If
Okay.
you want to just
Yeah.
swing by and say hi and I don't know, take the cyber truck out for a spin on the
Yep.
autopilot or whatever, you could do that. Everybody
Ooh, can
wanted
I run it off the road?
I
I'm kidding.
everybody I talked to was like, I would never ever buy one, and I don't support the company, but I just want to take it out for a spin because
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Have you guys
So
ever
for
been
the
to a Tesla dealership?
huh?
Have you guys ever been to a Tesla dealership?
I have not been there. No, they come to my
I
event.
very much support the way they price their vehicles. I wish all dealerships did that. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but they don't have car salesmen. Every car just has a price, and I do support that aspect of Tesla for sure. I wish all dealerships did that.
Sounds like Carvana. Um, okay.
Right.
And I would like to make a motion to recognize Betsy her recent resignation this month and just recognize her work and effort that she has put in with Cirque for a few years and what a pleasure it was to work with her on this committee. So I would like to put a motion forward for that. If I get a second, perhaps.
I'll
Can there
second
be a
that.
second? Okay.
Yeah,
Bill Burnham
thank you, Bill.
seconded, Stacy.
Yep.
And thanks, Will, really nice. I was actually thinking also maybe of asking Betsy if she wanted to come briefly to our April meeting so we could thank her all together in person, maybe, if her schedule allowed for it.
Yeah.
All right, but anyways, maybe we'll vote to have this in the minutes.
Yes.
Unanimous vote, Stacy?
Yep.
Yep.
Just
Okay.
thanking Betsy for her yeoman service to the committee.
Yeah.
Yeowoman service to the committee.
Yeoman. Yeah.
Yeoman.
So that also means if we are adjourning now, we will actually have 3 sets of minutes to vote on next time. So
That's okay. We'll do it. It'll
Okay.
be
Yeah.
April then.
Sorry, it's run long, everybody, and can't do
We're
anything
only
about it. But
5 minutes over. It's not a big deal.
one more time, when is the EV kick
Salem
gas?
Kicks Gas. It's Sunday, April 12th from 1 to 4 in the afternoon at the high school.
Okay, and you can guarantee good weather?
Well, I
Ha
can't
ha
on
ha
that
ha
date,
ha.
but I do have a rain date of May 17th. So if it
Okay.
looks like it's going to be windy or rainy or just overall nasty, I will move it to that rain date. I'll probably make the determination like Thursday night or Friday morning before the event and let everybody know if it's changing. And it also does not coincide with either end of April break. So I'm hoping
Okay.
that people will be around and able to go and not, traveling with school age children. Because I know I will be traveling during April break. So
Yeah. Yeah. I would encourage all the new members to put in a shift for this. Stacy does a lot of work on this, and she will really drive herself into the ground if we don't show up. So, and Neil has talked very sternly to the committee in previous years about us also helping Stacy with this endeavor. So, it's really not that bad. Just put in a couple hours, sit, chit chat with another
Yeah.
member, just not
Yep.
4 other members at the same time, right, Stacy?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But Circa's been good. Last year we had
Yeah.
4 members plus an intern.
Yeah.
Me, Will, Betsy, and Merrill, and an
Merrill.
intern. So we did a nice job last year. It was a lot of fun too. It's a
Sure
nice
was.
event.
It is.
Yep.
And I do once again have the Ionic guy, Corbin Lissabette, sponsoring. Greenway VV is also offered to sponsor, so I will be providing vouchers. I have Bacon Bites coming and Kim Gregory Pure Pastry coming for food. So I'll provide vouchers to, to those companies, and you can get yourself some lunch too while you're there. So
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll put a motion into adjourn Cirque.
Seconded by?
I'll second.
Seconded by
Excellent.
Kevin. And all in favor?
All right,
Nice
great.
meeting.
All right.
Well, thank you so
you
much. I
all.
know we got a lot to do next month, but at least we won't get canceled because we don't have enough to do.
That's
Yep.
good.
And I
Thank
think
you.
Ella
Excellent.
has mentioned that, remind me, because I will be on school break next month for this meeting. So Ella was going to run it. Is it?
Oh, great.
It's online. Can we do it online again just to make it easier for Ella?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't think we
good.
have anyone presenting or anything next month.
No, there's a chance it could be the Reverend Ives. So I'm working on
Oh,
that.
right.
Yeah.
But
so I am working on that.
He could be online too.
He
I'm
can
sure
totally
just
be
says-
Zoom.
Yeah, we've
Yes.
met with him online. He could definitely be online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Just making
Excellent.
sure.
Bye
All
bye,
right.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Great.
Bye, good to
Take
see you
care.
all.
Bye. It's great to see everyone.
Thanks. You
Good to
too.
see everyone.